When billionaire CEO Isabella Romano collapsed, she never expected to be saved by the night janitor. But Marcus wasn't just any cleaner, he was hiding a Harvard MBA and a heartbreaking secret that would change both their lives forever. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. Marcus Chin stared at the acceptance letter in his trembling hands. Harvard Business School. Full scholarship. His dream was finally within reach. But as he looked at his sleeping 5-year-old daughter Emma, curled up on their worn couch, he knew dreams sometimes had to wait. Daddy sick. Emma had asked 3 months ago when her mother Sarah collapsed in their kitchen. The cancer took her quickly, leaving Marcus alone with a mountain of medical bills and a little girl who still asked when mommy was coming home. The funeral director's bill sat unopened on their kitchen table. $15,000. Marcus had already sold Sarah's car, her jewelry, everything of value. His savings account showed $247.33. That's when he saw the job posting, janitor needed at Pinnacle Industries. Night shift, $12/hour. Marcus had an MBA from Stanford. He'd been a financial analyst at Goldman Sachs before Emma was born. But pride doesn't pay bills, and his daughter needed food more than he needed dignity. "What's your name?" asked Janet, the head of janitorial services, as Marcus filled out his application. "Mike," he lied smoothly. "Mike Johnson." He'd grown a beard, bought thick glasses from a dollar store, and practiced speaking with a different accent. The man who walked through Pinnacle Industries' doors at 10 p.m. wasn't Marcus Chin, Harvard MBA candidate. He was Mike Johnson, night janitor. The building was a gleaming tower of glass and steel, home to one of the city's most successful companies. During the day, executives in $1,000 suits made decisions that affected thousands of lives. At night, it belonged to the cleaning crew. Marcus learned the rhythm quickly. Empty trash cans on floors 1 to 10 by midnight. Vacuum the executive suites by 2 a.m. Clean the bathrooms by 4 a.m. Be invisible. Be forgotten. He was good at being invisible. He'd had plenty of practice. Isabella Romano built Pinnacle Industries from nothing. At 35, she was the youngest female CEO in the city's history. The business magazines called her ruthless. The employees whispered that she had ice in her veins instead of blood. They didn't know about the panic attacks that left her gasping for air in her corner office. They didn't know about the sleeping pills she'd started taking, or how she sometimes forgot to eat for entire days. Success came with a price, and Isabella was paying it in sleepless nights and an empty penthouse apartment. She often worked late, long after her assistants went home. That's when she first noticed him, the janitor who cleaned her floor. He was different from the others. Quieter. He moved with a grace that seemed out of place, pushing a mop bucket. "Evening," she said one night, looking up from her computer. The janitor froze like a deer in headlights. "Sorry, ma'am. I didn't know you were still here. I can come back." "It's fine. I'll be here all night anyway." He nodded and continued his work, but Isabella found herself watching him. There was something about the way he organized the papers on her desk, not just straightening them but actually arranging them in a way that made sense. Most janitors wouldn't know a quarterly report from a grocery list. Marcus noticed things. It was his gift and his curse. He noticed that Isabella worked 16-hour days. He noticed the empty coffee cups that accumulated like fallen leaves around her desk. He noticed the prescription bottles she tried to hide in her drawer. So he started leaving small kindnesses. A fresh cup of coffee, still warm, placed quietly on her desk during his rounds. Not the cheap stuff from the break room, but the expensive blend he bought with his own money. A sandwich from the deli down the street left with a note. "You missed lunch again. A friend." When Isabella caught the flu and spent 3 days coughing at her desk, refusing to go home, Marcus slipped cold medicine into her drawer with another note. "Even CEOs need to take care of themselves." Isabella never saw who left these gifts, but she began to look forward to them. In her world of corporate sharks and boardroom battles, these small acts of kindness felt like sunshine breaking through storm clouds. "Daddy, why do you smell like soap all the time?" Emma asked one morning as Marcus tucked her into bed before school. "Just from work, sweetheart." "What kind of work do you do?" Marcus hesitated. He told her he worked in an office building, which was technically true. "I help keep important places clean and safe." Emma smiled. "Like a superhero?" "Something like that." But Marcus didn't feel like a superhero. He felt like a fraud. Every night, he walked through offices filled with people living the life he should have had. His Harvard acceptance letter was pinned to his bathroom mirror, a daily reminder of the path not taken. The bills kept coming. Emma needed new shoes. The rent was due. And Marcus had just learned that his daughter's school was implementing a new program that required computers he couldn't afford. He began working double shifts, taking on weekend cleaning jobs at other buildings. Exhaustion became his constant companion. It was 3 a.m. on a Thursday when Marcus found Isabella collapsed on her office floor. She was unconscious, her breathing shallow, an empty bottle of sleeping pills scattered beside her. For a moment, Marcus forgot he was supposed to be Mike Johnson, night janitor. His business school training kicked in as he assessed the situation. He called 911, then carefully moved Isabella into the recovery position. He checked her pulse, monitored her breathing, and when the paramedics arrived, he gave them a detailed account of her condition that made them look at him with surprise. "Are you medical personnel?" one asked. "No," Marcus said quickly. I took a first aid class." At the hospital, Marcus waited. He told himself he was just being responsible, making sure his employer was okay. But the truth was, he'd grown to care about this woman who worked herself to exhaustion, who accepted small kindnesses from a stranger with quiet gratitude. When Isabella woke up, the first face she saw was that of her night janitor, sitting in an uncomfortable hospital chair, his work uniform wrinkled, his eyes filled with concern. You stayed?" she whispered. "Someone should be here," Marcus said simply. Isabella was released the next day with orders to rest and a referral to a therapist. She'd been suffering from severe anxiety and depression, masked by her perfectionist exterior. "I need to get back to work," she insisted as Marcus helped her to a taxi. "No," he said firmly. "You need to go home and sleep." She looked at him with surprise. In her world, no one told Isabella Romano what to do. But there was something in this janitor's voice, an authority that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than his job title. "What's your name?" she asked. "Your real name?" Marcus hesitated. Mike Johnson." "No," Isabella said softly. "I've been watching you for months. You reorganize financial reports. You understand business documents. You speak like someone with education. Who are you really?" The taxi pulled up to Isabella's building, a luxury high-rise that Marcus could never afford. As he helped her out, she stumbled and he caught her arm. "Please," she said, looking into his eyes. "I trusted you with my life last night. Trust me with your truth." Marcus stood in Isabella's penthouse apartment, feeling completely out of place among the designer furniture and floor-to-ceiling windows. But Isabella looked smaller here, more fragile without her corporate armor. "My name is Marcus Chin," he said finally. "I have an MBA from Stanford. I was accepted to Harvard Business School for this fall." Isabella sat down heavily. "Then why?" "My wife died. Cancer. The medical bills." Marcus's voice broke. "I have a 5-year-old daughter. Pride doesn't pay for groceries. But surely with your qualifications you could find." "I tried." "Do you know what happens when you have a gap in your resume? When you've been out of the corporate world taking care of a dying wife? Doors close. I sent out 200 applications. I got 3 interviews. No offers." Isabella was quiet for a long moment. "The coffee, the sandwiches, the medicine. That was you." Marcus nodded. "You reminded me of myself before everything fell apart. Working too hard, forgetting to take care of yourself. I knew what that road leads to." "You saved my life," Isabella whispered. "You saved mine first," Marcus replied. "That job, it kept my daughter and me from losing everything." Word spread quickly through Pinnacle Industries. The CEO had been hospitalized, and somehow the night janitor was involved. Rumors flew through the corporate grapevine like wildfire. Marcus returned to work the next night expecting to be fired. Instead, he found a note on Isabella's empty desk. "Take the weekend off. We need to talk. IR." He spent the weekend with Emma, taking her to the park, reading stories, trying not to think about what Monday would bring. On Sunday evening, as he tucked her into bed, Emma looked up at him with Sarah's eyes. "Daddy, are you sad?" "A little, sweetheart. Mommy used to say that sometimes sad things happen so happy things have room to grow." Marcus kissed her forehead, wondering if his 5-year-old daughter was wiser than he was. Monday morning, Marcus received a call. Isabella's assistant asking him to come to the office, during the day through the front door wearing a suit. Marcus borrowed a suit from his old life, pressed and hanging in the back of his closet like a memory. When he walked into Pinnacle Industries' executive floor, employees stared. The night janitor transformed. Isabella's office was different in daylight, brighter, less mysterious. She looked different too, rested for the first time since he'd known her. "I have a proposition," she said without preamble. "I need a chief financial officer. Someone I can trust. Someone who understands that business isn't just about numbers, it's about people. Marcus stared at her. Isabella, I can't. My education, it's not finished. I'm not qualified. You saved my life. You've been running financial analysis on my company for months. I've seen how you organize my reports. You understand this business better than some of my executives who've been here for years. She slid a folder across her desk. Salary is $200,000 a year. Full benefits. Flexible schedule so you can be there for Emma. And, she paused. Pinnacle Industries will pay for you to finish your Harvard MBA. Part-time distance learning. Marcus's hands shook as he opened the folder. The contract was real. The offer was real. Why? He whispered. Because kindness matters. Because you saw a person, not a title. Because sometimes the most qualified person is the one who remembers what it means to be human. 6 months later, Marcus Chin sat in his new office. Smaller than Isabella's but with a view of the city that still took his breath away. On his desk sat a photo of Emma at her new school, smiling as she held up an A+ on her math test. The Harvard acceptance letter was framed on his wall now, not as a reminder of what he'd lost, but as a promise of what was still possible. Daddy? Emma ran into his office after school, her backpack bouncing. Miss Rodriguez says I'm the best at math in my whole class. That's my girl, Marcus said, lifting her up for a hug. Ready to go home? Can we visit Miss Isabella first? I made her a picture. Isabella had become a fixture in their lives. Not just Marcus's boss, but a friend who joined them for weekend pancakes and helped Emma with science projects. She was learning to work less, live more, and she'd started seeing the therapist she'd been referred to. Of course we can visit Miss Isabella. As they walked down the hall to the CEO's office, Marcus reflected on how quickly life could change. A year ago he'd been invisible, forgotten, cleaning offices in the dark. Now he was building budgets, attending board meetings, and finishing his Harvard degree online. But the most important change wasn't in his title or his salary. It was in Emma's laughter, louder and more frequent now that worry no longer lived in their house. It was in the way he could breathe again without the constant weight of desperation on his chest. There's someone I want you to meet, Isabella said as they entered her office. A young woman sat in the waiting area, nervous, clutching a resume. She was maybe 25, wearing a discount store blazer that had seen better days. This is Lisa Martinez, Isabella explained. She's been working nights in our mailroom while putting herself through business school. Lisa, meet Marcus Chin, our CFO. Marcus shook Lisa's hand, recognizing the exhaustion in her eyes, the careful way she spoke, the pride masked by necessity. What's your story, Lisa? He asked gently. I'm a single mom, she said quietly. I have a 3-year-old son. I'm trying to finish my degree but... She gestured at her clothes, her circumstances. It's hard to get anyone to take me seriously. Marcus and Isabella exchanged glances. They talked about this, about creating opportunities for people like Lisa, like Marcus had been. People who were more than their current circumstances. How would you feel about joining our management training program? Isabella asked. Full salary, flexible hours, tuition assistance? Lisa's eyes filled with tears. I don't understand. Why would you? Because we believe in seeing potential, not just polish, Marcus said. Because sometimes the best leaders are the ones who've had to fight for everything they have. 2 years later, Pinnacle Industries was featured on the cover of Business Weekly. The headline read, The Kindness Revolution, How One Company Changed Everything. The article told the story of Isabella Romano and Marcus Chin, and how their unlikely partnership had transformed not just a company, but an entire approach to business. They'd implemented programs for working parents, created pathways for advancement regardless of background, and proved that success and compassion weren't mutually exclusive. Marcus kept a copy of the magazine in his desk drawer, next to a hand-drawn card from Emma that read, My daddy is a superhero because he helps people. Every evening, as he walked through the offices of Pinnacle Industries, Marcus remembered the man he'd been, invisible, forgotten, cleaning in the shadows. But that man had taught him something invaluable, that dignity isn't found in a title or a salary. It's found in how we treat each other when no one is watching. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply see someone, really see them, and remind them that they matter. In a world that often values profit over people, Marcus and Isabella had discovered the secret that changed everything. Kindness isn't just good for the soul. It's good for business too. Because when you treat people like they matter, they rise to meet your expectations. And when people rise, everyone wins. The janitor who saved a CEO had become something more. He'd become proof that second chances exist, that compassion pays dividends, and that sometimes the most important work happens not in boardrooms, but in the quiet moments when we choose to care for one another. And in his penthouse apartment, looking out at the city lights, Marcus Chin, former janitor, current CFO, eternal father, knew that some stories don't end. They just begin again each day with the choice to be kind.